this masterclass is for you if you're an honest person and you get really caught out with the lies that other people tell. That you are the type of person that cannot believe sometimes some of the things that people come out with, because they're not the kind of things that you would do, so you find it difficult to accept that other people do. It's also for you if you want meaningful connections with people, yet you're too tired looking for them. You're wondering if they actually exist. And it's also for you if you've become uncharacteristically suspicious of people, which happens to intuitive sensitives as time moves forward, and where you've had situations that have felt like a letdown to you, or where you feel that your intuition hasn't been on top form for you, but it's on top form seemingly for everybody else. It's also for you if you're ready to understand your intuition rather than being frightened of it. And it's also for you if you're ready to look for those high quality relationships in your life, even if you are working through feeling wounded by parts of the past. Okay, it's also if you want to develop a stronger relationship with your inner world so that emotions such as anxiety no longer ruin your fun in life. Because let's face it, as an intuitive sensitive, quite often, just at the point of us having fun, we suddenly think or become aware of this overwhelming feeling of impending doom that comes from nowhere, because we think, well, something or someone is going to come along and ruin this when I'm really feeling settled and happy and comfortable in my life. So best I defend myself and become very vigilant, very aware, so that I don't have to go through that. Now, who is this not for? Okay, this masterclass is certainly not for you if you think that intuition is all hocus pocus. And it's certainly not for you if you're the most insensitive person you know. And it's certainly not for you if you actively hurt people and don't care if you do. And it's not for you if you have the habit of shamelessly knowing that you use people. And it's not for you if you are someone who lies through their teeth. And it's certainly not for you if your idea of connection is to endlessly humiliate people, hurt their feelings, and call it joking. And it's not for you if you think all relationships are or should be about divide and conquer, which is to separate, divide people, and create arguments and then conquer the situation. This webinar is definitely not for you if you're one of those kind of people. So, in terms of today's agenda is, make sure that you watch this masterclass to the end. Why? Because in this masterclass, I'm going to show you how putting your intuition for soul connection to one side, where you've been doing that, where you've been putting it to one side, has been costing you your true soulmate relationships. Because without intuition for soul connection, you'll have found this, and what I'm about to say might be incredibly useful before you even start, that without it really engaged in the way that you need it to or want it to be engaged, without your intuition for soul connection, you won't recognize your soulmates. Okay, your soulmates in life, we come across those in various different forms. We come across them not only in romantic relationships, but in friendships, in working dynamics. But without intuition for soul connection, you won't recognize your soulmates. Okay, you'll then find yourself mistaking, and listen to this bit, codependent situations for love. Okay, we've all been guilty of that at some point in our lives. And right now, and this may be one of the reasons why you find yourself on this particular session, is that perhaps that this has been something that has followed you through life. Okay, and what do I mean by codependent situations, mistaking those for love? Well, what is that? What does that mean? Well, it means neediness and emotional desperation, that we think that in actual fact, when we are needy or someone else is needy, their neediness and their kind of emotional desperation around relationships is an indication of love. We mistake that sometimes. Soul connection, what it actually is, it's quiet. And it doesn't shout, "I love you," from the rooftops. It doesn't do that. And if you've been waiting for that, you have, I can tell you now, you've missed opportunities in your life. And you've missed those opportunities, those true opportunities for soul connection, because you haven't known how to recognize it. Now, this session, this is why I'm saying to you, stay to the end because you'll find it really helpful. This session will help you stop all that. If you've been finding that some of that has been going on in your life, this session will help you stop that. Okay, it will stop that doubt in your mind, because in many of these situations, as an intuitive sensitive, you will find that you are really great at intuition and intuitive situations for other people, but for yourself, it's questionable, or sometimes questionable. And therefore, you've got caught in that situation of, is this an authentic relationship, or is this something that I'm going to be wasting my time on, and I'm going to end up falling over, humiliating myself, feeling hurt, and running away inside of myself, wondering when on earth am I going to feel that there are decent situations or decency in this world when I get so hurt by these different situations. Okay, and then you think that this is somehow, there's this thing or this person or this whatever it is in life that's suddenly going to show up and save you, and you've been waiting for it. Well, what I'm going to show you in this session is that is already here for you. And perhaps what it is you haven't yet seen it. I'm going to show you where you can see it. Okay? And certainly you'll learn how to instantly feel safe in understanding your intuition for soul connection. So, what are we doing? Today's agenda. So I'll show you how to recognize when your nervous system is screaming signals at you, screaming them at you, yet you often can't see it, or you don't recognize when that's happening. And that's part of the intuitive process. And I'll show you how to trust even when it feels like the last thing you want to do because of prior situations. And I'll also show you the real reason that you feel gullible in certain scenarios, situations, and some of those things that have occurred in your past, and why you're so angry about it, because you know that it, or you wonder how on earth that happened when you're naturally an insightful person, or certainly insightful for others. And I'll also show you the real reason that you feel what is let down in certain scenarios and situations, okay, and what it is in your inner world that's looking and seeking to repair. So imagine how that will feel when you're in that position of not constantly worrying if you're doing the right thing, and how much less pressured that feels in your life. And the best part is you'll discover how to relax enough to know someone without immediately trying to judge the situation or judge them or emotionally protect yourself. So rather than feeling that, oh, I've somehow or another got to trigger my defense mechanisms, because that has become natural to me because I'm sensitive to these situations. And so I'm always looking for reasons why not to, rather than the reasons why to. And this session, the best part is you'll discover how to relax around that enough to then know someone without immediately trying to judge or emotionally protect yourself. And of course, much more. Now, the division in our own mind is often very subtle. Okay, so that division in your own mind between your intuition and your personality and what you may call the ego is actually really at times really very subtle. Mostly we're used to ignoring what we need, yet we're really aware of what other people want or even what their needs are. Okay, now the trouble with that is unsavory characters rely on this gap. Okay, they rely on this gap between our own awareness and what we need or want. Okay, they notice that, they know that unsavory characters rely on that gap, and they then exploit it, which is when we think as intuitive people that our intuition has let us down. And the fact is, your intuition didn't let you down. The mistaken identity of what we're taught to love to be. Okay, so what we're taught love to be is the issue that's actually let us down, not our intuition, because often our intuition is screaming underneath and it's trying to communicate. But when there is a gap between this in ourselves and that separation between the connection to the intuition for aspects of soul connection, when there is that gap there, that's when it's exploited. And that is where our identity, as far as what we're taught love to be, lets us down, not our intuition. So correcting that balance, using your intuition for what it's meant for as an intuitive sensitive, which is for conscious connection to your nervous system, which otherwise you would know as the meaning of soul connection. That's really what it is. Means you get to enjoy your life without that constant fear of someone letting you down. Okay. Now, I promise you're going to be pleased that you joined this presentation today. I'm going to be promise you that you will have something of value that you can use and utilize in your life right now, right from this moment of this session. So before we go into that, so that you can feel really quite comfortable and familiar with who I am and who I'm, who you're listening to for the next however many minutes of your life, so that you can feel more confident with that. Well, my courses, books, and programs have helped thousands of intuitive sensitive people in 121 countries. I'm a published author, and my books are printed in 5 languages. Now, Highly Intuitive People, the book Highly Intuitive People, is in 2 parts, okay? So part 2 is 7 steps. Now, you may be familiar with this. You may have read my book already, which is where you found yourself on this particular session, or you may be familiar with the work that I do. But if you're not, you'll find what I'm saying right now helpful for the rest of this session. So the book is in 2 parts. Part 2 is the 7 steps. Okay, so the seven steps as far as your consciousness line is concerned, and I use the tree of life as the definition for that. So this session, okay, so as we look up this picture here of the consciousness line, in this session we are looking at the second, okay, so the second stage within this. So look at that, it's the orange bit right in front of you. Now this is your bridge between the one, which is your everyday world, the physical world, and the things that impact you on on an everyday level of the 110, which is at the bottom of the tree of life. I'm not going too far into this, but just giving you a feel for it. Just have a feel for what you're doing here. And number 3 area, which is the subconscious. Okay, so you're looking at your connection between your everyday world and the subconscious, and that area that sits in between, which is number 2, which you can see right there, is the area that's really important to understand, which is how you perceive your intuition. As you can see, it's your connection to the rest of who you are. So it's an incredibly important step. It's an incredibly important part of your own development process. So if you're thinking to yourself right now, I'm not sure if I'm intuitive, seems a bit too complicated for me, or I'm not sure, or actually no, I'm very intuitive, but is this going to be too basic a session for me? The answer to both of those is no. Okay, because this is understanding this part of your development, especially if you are someone who is really strongly connected to really feeling that you want to develop your inner world, then this level is really important to understand and to have or make an effort to work through. Okay, so I host events in the UK and Ireland, both small ones and large ones, and I am absolutely blessed to work with such lovely people who say such lovely things, really, really lovely things to me in terms of the work, but also, lovely things that they say to my staff, who, again, we work very consciously. All of us work very consciously to do our best by intuitive sensitive. So I've been sent hundreds and hundreds of documented stories of transformation. Some of those you begin to see on your screen right now. Just some of those particular stories. So that gives you a little bit of a feel for who I am. So here is me now. Okay, so this is a me now picture, as you can see, with my boys. These are all my boys. Here is me now. And here is a photo of me pulling a face. Yep, right at the beginning of intuition and my development. Now, this picture that you've got on your screen right now is 20 years old. And that picture is me right at the beginning of understanding intuition. And at that point in my life, I was most certainly feeling wounded, lost, and completely alone. Okay, so why do I show you that picture? Well, because it's important for you to imagine yourself 2 years from now. Because if that's how you feel in your life right now, imagine yourself 2 years from now, from where you perhaps feel like I did, wondering, kind of what happened in life, where there was no certainty and where you felt somewhat jaded, to where you can be in 2 years. Okay, so imagine where you want to be in 2 years' time. The security in yourself that you want to have, just let yourself feel it for a minute. Just think, okay, well, because I was there, that picture that I've just shown you, go back to it here, that this photo here, I was, and that's probably, actually I can remember when that photo was taken, and that's why I was putting a face, because I didn't want anyone to see me, because I was feeling wounded, lost, and very alone. Okay, so imagine yourself in 2 years, where you want to be in 2 years' time. The security you want in yourself to have, the types of things you want to add to your life that perhaps you haven't got right now, but you want to add those, and the types of people that you want, not that you have, that you want, and the work you want to do. I'm just saying that as because that may be something that's happening in your life right now. You're at that transition point. Perhaps you're at that stage where it's building inside of you to find strong purpose in your life. And you're starting to feel that itch of needing, not wanting, but needing some aspect of transformation. Because that's not outside of your reach, okay? And the truth is, the time of that photo that I've just shown you, that time in my life, I had absolutely nothing. I was sat on that log pulling a face. I had absolutely nothing. I had no partner, no home, no family. I didn't even have a car then. I was living at that particular time in my life with an absolute nightmare housemate who would do such things as would have this compulsion almost to threaten me near enough every day, threaten to throw me out because I'd done something that they didn't like, that I'd left, as an example, a laundry basket in the wrong place, or a friend of mine had parked too close to her plant pots, or I wasn't in and there was an answer phone message left for me and I dared to leave it blinking rather than, clearing answer phone messages as soon as I walked in the door. So at that time in my life, just right at the beginning point of really working with my intuition and deciding to do something with it and work with it, my life was not in the slightest bit comfortable. And sometimes that happens, but it doesn't mean to say that it stays that way. So let yourself imagine yourself in a couple of years' time of those things that you would like to adjust in your life right now that perhaps aren't working for you, and what those possibilities are for a couple of years' time, because that's what I did. Okay. And that's what I did. And that's when that point of transformation and access to those deeper layers of yourself really begin to start. So just for a minute, indulge me by imagining what that will do for you, okay, in a couple of years' time. Possibilities. So just as a reminder, have you ever felt this way? As an example, you've often frozen in fear of making the wrong decision, even though you know you're intuitive about people and situations, yet for yourself, you're frozen in fear of making that wrong decision, even though you know you can do it fine as far as other people are concerned. Have you ever felt that you feel sometimes super confident? Sometimes you're on fire, you're super confident. Other times you feel as though you have no confidence at all, and it seems like an extreme pendulum swing from feeling that you're fine and you're feeling on top of the world, confident, and other times you feel that you disappeared and you don't know where it went. Or have you ever felt that you wonder if there is anyone out there to care for you as much as you care for them? Certainly that's how I felt. And as I say, I felt at that particular stage in my life. And, on top of that, if you ever wonder if it's normal to be that exhausted with it, or that you think if it's normal that it has to feel quite so much like hard work, or that you struggle to go forward, but you can't go back, that there isn't a feeling of an option to go back, but you feel that you struggle a little bit to go forward. Any of that sounds familiar? Or you're fed up with worrying. If what you're asking for is needy because others don't seem to be too bothered by the quality of their relationships, and you think, is it just me? Am I being too needy because I am bothered by the quality of relationships when others don't seem to be? So how do you spot the authentic from the liars and develop those reliable situations in terms of your intuition for successful relationships? Well, for starters, what are we looking at? What does it mean? So your question is, what are you defining as liars and what is authentic? So it's important for me to define what that is. Does it mean white lies? Liars, white lies? Because, let's face it, everyone tells those at some point in their life. We've all done that. We'll tell, white lies sometimes to protect people. So, what are we defining as liars? And authentic, what does authentic mean? Do people have different definitions of authentic? It seems to be. Sometimes people do have different definitions. Why is it that some people regard it as, what I see as a lie, as a minor indiscretion, and then say, I'm overly sensitive? If you're thinking that, well, why is it? What is the definition of authentic? Because some people seem fine with it. They regard it as what I think is a lie, as a minor indiscretion, and they say, "Are you sure you're not being overly sensitive about it?" So what are you, Heidi? What are you, Heidi, defining as liars and what is authentic? Okay, so how do we look at that as far as this is concerned? Well, a liar is when it's a case you feel lied to, where it creates humiliation at a soul level. Okay? It's when it's a case where you feel you've been lied to and it's created a humiliation at a soul level. It's something that you feel so deeply. It's really, really deeply. And authentic is a situation or person where you feel able to naturally trust and relax around them, again, at deep levels. So liar is when you feel lied to and it creates humiliation at soul level. Okay, that's my definition of liar. And my definition of authentic is it's a situation or a person where you feel able to naturally trust and relax at a deep level. Okay, so lies, as an example, are devastating to an intuitive, sensitive person. You find it very tricky to let go of the hurt and certainly the letdowns. And that impacts your self-esteem, it impacts your anxiety levels, and most certainly it impacts your productivity. So your ability to do things in life, to get on and do stuff that you want to do. You also start to hate your sensitivity rather than use it for good. Why? Because you're a strong person. Okay, so feeling weak, especially when you've come across a liar at that kind of level, frustrates you and leaves you feeling that you have, half a life. It feels more of an existence rather than that level of connection that is part of your actual reality. You can feel it, but it almost feels sometimes out of reach. So authentic becomes a necessity for an intuitive sensitive, not a luxury. Okay, it's become something that you have to have at some time in your development. Authentic relationships will become a necessary part of your soul connection. It's not, you're not going to escape it. So whether that point is right now or it's to come, and let yourself hear what I'm saying, at some time in your development, authentic relationships will become a necessary part of your soul connection. They will become something that is absolutely vital to you. You'll seek it, you'll want it, and you'll make sure that things or events in your life are shaped towards scenarios in that direction. Humans are not solitary creatures, okay? Regardless if you think that, oh, well, actually my way of protecting myself is to be solitary. And as an intuitive, sensitive person, you're certainly not solitary. But you may have tried to have created it that way. Why? Because you've tried to create it as an emotional survival mechanism. So, how does intuition allow you to align with your authentic connections in life? Well, firstly, it's about defining what is intuition and why you'd want it for soul connection. So, intuition, in terms of the dictionary definition, is the ability to understand something instinctively without the need for conscious reasoning. Okay, so how do you do that as an intuitive, sensitive person? Well, you do that through your nervous system. Okay, your spinal cord, like everyone else's spinal cord, receives information through your skin, your joints, and the muscles of your body. Now, your brain is the most complicated part of your nervous system. So as an intuitive sensitive, yours is not only sensitized, as in you're much more aware, your nervous system is much more aware, it's much more alive, it's much more engaged than the average person. But as an intuitive sensitive, in my experience, you developed your intuition, which is there, by the way. If it wasn't there, you certainly wouldn't be listening to me right now. You developed your intuition as a way to manage your sensitivity and as a protection mechanism, okay? That's why you developed it. You developed it as a way to manage your sensitivity, so to manage that sensitized nervous system, and as a protection mechanism. Now, the issue is that's made you suspicious of people and situations. So you've been using your intuition only for sussing scenarios. And that's fine. But the trouble is, now your nervous system is overloaded and it's full of old information. Okay. And that old information is something that you sometimes link into, and you think that's your intuition. And when it doesn't turn out to be that way, you then wonder and think, well, actually my intuition isn't reliable, when in actual fact what it is that your system has been tuning into old information. Because where you've been using your intuition as a way to manage your sensitivity and as a protection mechanism, it's made you suspicious of people and situations, and you've been using that for sussing out scenarios, okay? And you've been doing that consistently and on a regular basis. In fact, for all of those relationship choices that you've made. So, what is it that you need to do? So, what is tip number 1 for developing intuition for successful relationships? The first thing is very simple. It's trust. Okay. Now, this doesn't mean that you have to go around trusting people, because at present you'll see relationships as something that is unreliable. You're suspicious and waiting to see, as an example, if someone is manipulative. Okay. And you'll do this through refusing to depend on anyone. You'll find if I was to ask people around you, or even to ask you, I would get the answer that your policy is to remain independent. Okay, to remain emotionally independent. And your nervous system storage will send that instruction. Okay, so that stuff that is stored in your nervous system will send the instruction, remain independent. And how do you do that? Oh, well, it says, well, you do that through meeting someone who you can't trust. Okay, because the message stored that you think your system has been utilizing as the ways and means of protecting you is, well, the storage says send the instruction, remain independent, and do that through meeting someone who you can't trust. Because if you can't trust them, then you can be sure to remain independent. Now, the issue is liars like a challenge. Okay, they like to overcome something. They like to overcome a barrier. They see your deeper lack of trust as a barrier that they need to charm, to overcome. And maybe that's been familiar to you in your life. Perhaps you can type in and let me know if that has been familiar to you in your life. And you think, oh, is it me? What is it? Have I had something stamped on my head that has said, untrustworthy person, come and step into my domain? And then I'm the one that gets hoodwinked and feel like my intuition is unreliable. But how come I can be great for everybody else? This trust component, or the lack of it, where the instruction has been remain independent, so do that through meeting someone that you can't trust. That is a big block in your life, okay? Especially because after all, right now, you feel more suspicious than ever, okay? So how do you train yourself to trust? What do you do? What do you do? How do you do it? Well, you do it with soul connection, okay? And you do that because with it, you'll never, and I mean never, feel let down, okay? So try it for a moment, okay? Try it for a moment. I'm asking you to do this right now. So think of something, a dilemma you've worked out correctly, okay? Something that you did that was a dilemma in your life, and then actually you worked it out really well, okay? And you worked it out correctly. Think of that right now. How did you get there? How did you get there? How did you get there? What happened was, and you weren't being conscious of this, but I'm telling you exactly how you got there. You stepped back from the drama. Okay? You went into a quiet room within, and in that quiet room within, you instantly saw what needed to be done. Okay? You then felt confident, you felt courageous, and you didn't need any puffing up. Okay? You didn't feel that you need to puff up and defend yourself. It felt natural. Okay? I'm asking you to remember a time when that happened. What you had was soul connection. Okay? And then you never felt let down. Remember it. Go back to it and remember and recall when you did that, because that made a big difference in your life. Okay? Now imagine what that looks like to you all the time. Okay? If you made all your decisions on that basis, all your decisions, but it was natural. It was natural to you. It just happened. Soul connection in terms of confidence and knowing that even though there are obstacles, because there are always obstacles in life, that you feel confident enough to step over them because you're in a natural flow, and how normal that is. You don't have to go searching into some heavenly space for it. You've got it. Okay? You've got it. But you haven't necessarily been accessing it. Now imagine what you would do if you had that feeling as a permanent feeling. What would be different in your life? Okay, now, right now, in asking you that question, you might feel really quite emotional. If you are feeling emotional about it, let yourself feel emotional about it. Because that's, again, beginnings of soul connection. People think that crying or feeling emotional about something is some kind of weakness. It's not at all. It's actually a sign of strength. So let yourself feel that. What would be different in your life? Because when that happens, you start to feel some of those things that you've missed out on. Okay? So let yourself feel it. When you've made that connection, when you've done that well, how that would feel if you allowed that permanently in your life. Trust starts that process. Okay, the development of that. Okay, so tip number 2 for developing intuition for successful relationships. Okay, well, fantastic. Just before I go into number 2, I'm looking at all of what you're saying here. Absolutely fantastic. Yes, makes so much sense. Been there, Heidi. 30 years with someone I can't trust. Whoops. That is so familiar. Exactly me. Oh, yes. Yes. Okay. So again, even where you think, whoa, 30 years with someone I can't trust. Well, I spent 40 years of my life in an environment with someone that it took me 40 years to work out that actually I couldn't trust. And it was more about then actually coming into that space of realizing that actually what the difference is that happens when you can trust and you trust that soul connection. And I made big adjustments in my life based on that soul connection, nothing else. Okay, and I can promise you that all of those decisions were made intuitively, very intuitively. They didn't make logical sense. They were intuitive decisions, and they were the best decisions I ever made. So let's move on to tip number 2 for developing intuition for successful relationships. Now, the second one is search and seek. Okay. What do I mean by this? Well, intuition is a deep relationship. Okay, that's what it is. Now, if you've never experienced a deep relationship because you've never had trust, well, intuition is your first deep relationship. Okay, that's what it is. It's a relationship. It's not something, it's not a thing. It's a relationship. And this is what people don't realize. They think it's a thing that they have to have. It's not, it's a relationship. It's your first deep relationship. Okay, so imagine that for a minute, that you're about to have your first deep relationship, and that is with intuition. Okay, now you may currently believe that intuition is for the gifted, those tapped on the head with a magic stick. Now, the reason for search and seek is because without motivation, you would not seek to know yourself. Okay, you wouldn't seek to know yourself without some kind of motivation. So what's the motivation? Why would you want to search and seek? Well, the motivation is to move away from what feels unauthentic, which feels like it's of a lower vibration that doesn't feel that it's authentic. Now, relationships, as in the relationship dynamics with people, are unconscious reflections of who we see ourselves to be. Now, intuition, as in the first deep relationship, shows us the unconscious relationships to solve. Okay, it shows us what are those unconscious relationships to solve. And soul connection gives us the courage to solve them. Okay, it gives us the courage to solve them, because that deep relationship is with the soul connection. It's not with a person per se. So the question is, what are you searching and seeking? So I'm going to ask you to do something again. Okay? Feel for a moment. Feel your nervous system talking. Feel it talking to you. Let it talk. You might start to think, whoa, okay, I'm not sure about that. What is it saying about an unconscious relationship to solve? What's it saying to you? What's it talking to you about? Now, your head, it may go blank, because it's not your head you should be listening to, it's your body talking. Okay? What does it say? Intuition comes through the body always first. What does it say? Listen through the stillness. Or look. Where do you look? You look through the turbulent energy, not at the turbulent energy, you look through it to feel what's underneath, what's behind. So imagine it this way. Perhaps at the moment your intuition feels like a washing machine. It's churning over and over, trying to clean what's inside. Okay? Churning over and over, churning over and over. That's what your intuition feels like. Trying to clean something, we're not sure what. Now look through to see what's there. What's churning? What's it trying to clean? What's it trying to talk about? What are some of the relationships in your life trying to teach you about your self-esteem, your shifts in self-esteem? What are they trying to tell you about old conditioning that's trying to move, the dirt trying to shift, and that washing churning in that machine? So what are you searching and seeking? Asking yourself that question. Ask yourself right now, see what comes up, type it in, chat to others. It's great that you're really, really pleased that you're putting in, these things, these comments, because it means that, you're sharing, and you're sharing some of those things and learning. That's how the importance of your intuitive stuff. It's how you really begin to understand it, because you're sharing that information with others who get you. Put it in, see what, let me see what you're saying. Let others see what you're saying. So release the churning by looking through, not at it, looking through to the other side. When you get stuck in the motion of watching what's going round and round, you never see what's actually there. Looking through to the other side of it, you get to view it, observe it, rather than feel it's taken you over. That's what true intuition is. That's what that deep relationship is. It's the ability to observe through search and seek. Soul connection, actively looking for it, means you get instantly beyond the emotion into the truth. What's intuition? It's simply truth. The authentic, and to feel very safe, no matter what is happening in the world or in your world. Now imagine what that looks like to you, okay? And again, indulge me with it. Imagine what that looks like to you. What it would feel like if you immediately knew if a relationship was something to keep or let go of. Or those situations where you could accept situations for what they are, their limitations, without it destroying your inner world. And imagine what it's like if you can deal with what doesn't match with you without feeling hurt or wounded, but still able to keep your sensitivity to its highest level. How much more would you get done? Indulge yourself with it. Imagine what that looks like for you. Okay, so tip number 3 for developing intuition for successful relationships. Relieving pressure. Okay. Now, you can't hear your intuition, as in terms of that deep relationship, if there's an internal pressure. Your belief may be, if you're intuitive, you can't turn it off. Okay, people ask me that all the time. Surely, if you're that intuitive, you can't turn it off. You must be able to hear things, people's thoughts, feelings all the time. Yeah, I can. Absolutely, I can. Sometimes it's kind of distracting. The truth is, though, when you develop your intuition for soul connection, you don't need to turn it off. Because you're observing what those things are that are going on, and because you have your own peace within. Okay, you have your own peace within, so you don't need it turned off. So internal pressure is your block to love. Okay, love in all its forms. Part of your soul purpose is to understand and resolve your patterns of contrast. Okay, those things that happen in your life that are a contrast to who you are. And quite often, the more decent we are, the more heavy the contrast. Or there's more contrast of an experience that is in our life. You know, if you ever wonder why, I'm a decent person, why has this happened to me? It's because it's about resolving your patterns of contrast. Because without that level of motivation, you'll only see your intuition through your greatest fear. Okay, and how is that operated? Where's that operated through? Well, it's operated through the personality, the ego, whatever you want to call it. So challenging relationships in the first instance are there to show you the contrast, but you're not meant to keep them. So relieving pressure, relieving the pressure of thinking that you have to keep them, means your intuition becomes stronger, more reliable, and your best friend. Okay, again, imagine what it feels like for you to relieve that pressure. So how do you do it? How do you relieve pressure? You think, well, that's all fine and dandy, Heidi, but how the hell do I do that? Well, expectations create internal pressure. Okay, for starters, expectations create internal pressure, huge pressure, especially for intuitive sensitives, because half of us, most of us, have got this added pressure of thinking that of our own perfection, that we can't take action unless we're doing something perfectly. So expectations create internal pressure. So some intuitive sensitives have massive internal pressure because they feel that they can't take action unless they know they can do it perfectly. So what then happens? You then berate yourself for not living up to expectations. Okay. So think for a moment about those expectations. What are yours of yourself? What are they of yourself? And if you think about those for a moment, whose expectations actually are they? Because I can tell you now, they're not yours. They came from something or someone else that's been bubbling around and stored and pounding around your nervous system probably for years. Expectations about your health, your weight, your relationships, your finances, all of those are creating internal pressure. They are all expectations. So how do you relieve that pressure? Be honest about what's creating that pressure and move away from expectations. As soon as you can feel an expectation creeping in, move away from it. Allow your intuition to come through. And it comes through by moving out the way the expectations. Now, again, indulge me for a minute. Imagine what that looks like to you. Giving up that internal pressure. And some of you might be feeling, wow, that would be a massive thing for me. to give up that internal pressure, and where that intuition can flow as it's meant to be your own self. Okay, with no expectation, because your own self has no expectation. Has none. Has no expectation. Just is. No pressure. What would be different to how things are now? Let yourself imagine what you would allow in your life, what you would achieve where you previously thought you need the pressure to achieve. What does life look like or feel like with no pressure? No pressure from within. I can feel it already. I can feel what you're all doing. You've kind of gone, taking a breath. Actually stop holding your breath. I'm forever saying at events to people I'm working on, for crying out loud, stop holding your breath. It's pressure. Imagine what that looks like if you don't do that anymore. Okay, so where do we go from here? What do you do next? What is it? Can you see? Those things are important. Your connection, hopefully you can now kind of get a feel for the fact that you're, allowing intuition to develop, especially through your soul connection, is something that is important. It's not a what are those intuitive people? Tell me what colour underwear I've got on. It's some kind of party game. It's not a party game. Intuition, your intuitive side, is definitely not a party game. So hopefully, from this session, you can see how important it is to you and what it does in terms of building your sense of self, your confidence, and your self-esteem, just by feeling some of those things that we've gone through. So where do you go from here? Well, would you like me to help you use your intuition for soul connection so that you can relieve that pressure and allow yourself to develop those authentic relationships?